Hi, my name is Daniel Olshansky. I'm Chet's intern here on the Android team at Google, and today I'll be discussing a few card flip animations. So today I'll just show you how to flip cards, both from side to side, out and in, and as well as a few little tricks on how to do graphic animations on darkening and spinning the cards when you need to. The main trick to today's animation is going to be the fact that after every single animation, we're going to update the layer parameters such that future animations are not going to be dependent on the values of previous animations. So we'll be animating the properties, but then at the end of every single animation, we'll be setting them all back to 0, such that any future animations won't be dependent on what has been done before. So going straight into the demo, here we have a stack of red cards. I can use touch events to flip it from right to left. Similarly, I can flip it from left to right. The speed at which this animates is actually dependent on the speed at which I fling it. You can also swipe down to open a stack of cards, or swipe back up to close a stack of cards. It applies to both stacks. Or if you tap on a stack, then there's little delayed animation showing you how to rotate a full stack of cards completely. So jumping straight into the code, there's a lot of boilerplate code that you can look into where you handle all the touches, determine which way I'm flinging and things like that. But the interesting things happen here in card view. So scrolling down, initially, one of the things you need to note is that views and in turn image views have this property called set camera distance. So what this actually lets you do is set the position along the z-axis of how far you want to be from the actual animation. Originally, in this animation, if you were to set it back to its default value, you'd see that we don't actually see the flip animation because it happens behind the screen. After that, we retrieved the bitmaps that we use for the front and the back of the cards, and keep going down. Here, this is important to note. What we're doing to the bitmap drawables is adding a 1 pixel transparent border, and the reason we're doing this is when you're rotating a rectangle within some view, the edges don't actually have any values that they can retrieve outside the boundaries of the rectangle, so you end up getting these very jagged edges when you rotate a rectangle. But this problem can be very easily abided simply by having a 1 pixel transparent border, and it's done right here, and then you'll see that the edges are actually smooth as you rotate the cards. Then there's two methods, flip from left to right and flip from right to left. Before we actually call the flipping animation, we need to set the pivot. By default, the X and Y pivots of all views are along the center. So if you were to rotate it, it would only rotate about its center, but setting these manually would give us more precision as to how we want to animate it. Then there's a method called flip horizontally after we set the pivot. What this does is set up use property values holder, object animators, and things like that to actually animate the rotation of it from along the y-axis by 180 degrees. We also add a translation animation such that when it finishes animating, it's in the correct offset within the corresponding pile that it animated to. And what we're also doing is adding an update listener such that as it's animating, we need to make sure when it reached a halfway point, and at the halfway point, we want to switch the drawable from the red bitmap to the blue bitmap, or the other way around because it's on the other side now. Going down furthermore, I'm setting up a few keyframe animations on a property called shadow. This is a custom property used to darken the image as it's animating, which I'll show you in a second. Scrolling down even more, I set a duration using the velocity passed in from the fling, and then use an animator set to play all of these together. At the end of the animation, I need to update the bitmaps and set some default values back to their default values. So like I said, I'm animating a custom property called shadow. So since my string is shadow, my object animator is going to look for a property on that target called sat shadow right here. And all I'm doing here is using alpha blending in porter.def mode multiply. And all this does is just darken the image as it's animating, and that's how you get that shadow-like effect. Toggle front showing simply switches the red and blue bitmaps, switches the flag determining which bitmap you're using, and there's some more very simple boilerplate code to do some setup things here as well. So the thing is, in on draw, when I'm flipping my card, instead of actually creating a new bitmap that's horizontally mirrored from my original bitmap, all I'm really doing is concatenating my canvas with a matrix that does that exact same thing. So this way, it's a lot more efficient, doesn't use as much memory, uses the exact same bitmap, but I'm still able to achieve that horizontal mirroring effect of the image after I've actually flipped it. And the reason I need to do that is because in update layout parameters, I set the rotation X and Y back to 0. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make any future animations be independent of what they were before. But in order to achieve that, I also need to update my the left margin of my layout parameters to be exactly where it is after the animation. And then, of course, update the parameters as well. So this, in conjunction with customizing the canvas when I need to, lets me achieve this whole independence effect after every single animation. Again, some simple code to offset it where I need to, switch the bitmaps. And then, so here it is. Here's the code for rotating the actual card. What this does is determine what angle I should rotate it by depending on how far the card is down the stack. And then I simply return an object animator that rotates that view by that angle. The other thing that I can also do is when I tap on a card and all the cards flip in a circle with a certain delay between them, it's almost the same animation, except the angle is always 360 degrees. But the other thing to note is that you need a start delay. The cards on top start animating almost immediately, whereas the cards underneath only start animating when all the cards above that card have already gone past a certain point in the animation. So I add a different start delay depending on where the card is, and then I play all those animations together. And the other thing, so that's how you actually get the animations for every individual card. And if you look in the Cardflip activity, which is the main activity, all I'm doing here is looping through all my cards. When some stack has been tapped, I'd retrieve that object animator that I can get from my card view. And the other thing I'm doing is bringing that child to the front. So depending on how I've been flipping the cards, I don't exactly know whether all the cards on the right stack are on top of the cards on the left stack. So I'm just sequentially calling bring child to front to change the Z order of all the cards in the stack that I'm animating. And the other thing you need to do is always call request layout after you've called bring child to front in order for those effects, in order for that change to take effect. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for the child to be brought to front until somebody has requested a layout on your view. Very similarly, in order to achieve the full card rotation, I am retrieving the object animators from all the cards, bringing the objects to front, and doing almost the exact same thing, except with a different object animator which I can retrieve from my card view. So that's pretty much how you can flip cards, rotate them, and animate them in different ways. Thanks.